Everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live, I believe, right now on Facebook, and we need to get the Instagram launched as well. Let's see if we can do that. Save that and launch that. Working through the technology here as we do this. And don't know how we do it. So, well, thanks for joining us. I'm Warren Flax, and this is our regular Silver Brush Limited discussion with you and demonstration. Below me on this screen is my mom, Dee Silver, and below her is Kristen Olson Stone, who's going to do one of her wonderful demonstrations today. So thank you to Kristen for joining us. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we know that it's a good chunk of your day, of your week. And so thank you for doing that. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to look at some of our Black Velvet Voyage brushes, and Kristen's going to use these Voyage brushes in her work, and we're going to give away a couple of these. So do let us know where you're tuning in from around the world. We usually give away both in the United States and outside of the United States, so everyone's eligible to win. And so the Voyage is an interesting brush, right, Mom? I mean, you developed it a while ago, and it's something that has a unique place and it has a unique purpose, right?
It does. And, I was very excited when I was able to bring this to market. This is the Voyage brush. What the advantage of it is, this is a round brush. Then you've all used that. It's got the nice long tip over here and the big fat belly. But what makes this different is the fact that you could take it with you, just take it off of there, and just put it into the top. So when you are traveling, the brush head doesn't get damaged, and you can just take it anywhere you want to take it. One of the advantage of these, not everyone does this, but we put a little hole at the tip over here. I don't know if you can see that, so that you can see it now. So that when this is wet and you put it inside, it starts to dry. Because if it couldn't do that, it would get mildew. But this is very unique in the fact that it just fits beautifully on the back. It fits beautifully on the back, and it's just really easy and very comfortable to hold. And I think that's what makes it so successful. It comes in 4 different sizes. It comes in 2, 2, 4, 6, and this is the 8 over here. So, it's a small line, and I think that, if you buy the package, if you have a package, maybe you could win one today. You get all of the different sizes, and then you get all the kind of detail that you want to go into your painting. I'm excited that we're working with Kristen, and she's going to show us her painting that she's going to be doing with the Voyage brushes. It makes it so wonderful and easy to create something that's just so unique. And if you notice that the little palette that Kristen is using is a little travel palette of color also. So you got brushes that are easy to carry, a little teeny palette, and you can go anywhere. You can travel anywhere, and you can take your watercolors as you hike, as you walk. And as the time goes on, we're going to have more and more for you to take it as you go out and paint in planning a painting. So have a great painting experience. I hope you enjoy the class today. And thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. That's it.
All right, well, let's get you up here, Kristen. There you go.
There she is.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello. So I have been painting for over 25 years, and I started as a watercolor artist and also moved on to oils. But watercolor is my passion. It's just so much fun. It's a very spontaneous medium, and it does need some control. And my favorite brushes for painting watercolor are the Black Velvet series. And my favorite brushes for traveling and painting are the Black Velvet Voyage brushes. They're just amazing. They hold and release the water in a very measured way. They don't just let the water out on your paper, and you can paint without the worry of surprises. And they're very reliable, and the point is great. And so I use the whole set. I have the full set of the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 8. And I take them with me everywhere I go, along with my tiny paint kit, which I'll show you in just a couple of minutes. So I paint small paintings, watercolor sketches, and I take my paints with me everywhere I go. And I also paint some really large watercolors, also with the Black Velvet brushes. The larger paintings, I use, of course, the bigger rounds like the 14, the 18, the 20, and so on. And so in a minute, I can switch over and show you a few of my paintings and sketches that I've done with these brushes. So, Warren, do you want to switch over to my camera?
Yes, ma'am. Let's get that in there.
Okay.
That's me. Nobody wants to see me. There you go. Great.
This is my smallest sketchbook. So this is a 6-inch by 8-inch book, and my my palette has a little magnetic clip, and it's a flat clip, so it doesn't damage the paper. And you can just clip it on like that, and the palette sticks to it. And I have a little water cup also that clips on, and I usually clip that over to the opposite side. And these are 12 colors that I picked specifically for this set, and it holds quite a lot of paint, this little set. And anyway, it will last a long time when I'm not painting, so I can clip it. And this is one of my sketches of a cactus garden. I'm out in the Southern California desert, so we have a lot of that kind of scenery. I also use the Black Velvet brushes to paint more detailed paintings like this one. This is on Arches paper, and this isn't a sketch, it's a regular watercolor painting of an interior with a cat. This is another one of my sketches. As you can see, I like to use a lot of color. I don't shy away from bright colors when I'm painting with watercolor, and I like to have the full range of values. This is another sketch from Tuscany, and another one. And these are all painted with, the sketches are all done with the Black Velvet Voyage, and these are done with the Black Velvet regular brushes. I've been doing a series of interiors lately, and so these are a couple of my interior paintings. I love all the textures and colors that you can get with interiors that have a lot of attention to detail. Makes a really interesting subject for watercolor painting. This is another one of my recent sketches. This is the other size book that I really like to use, a 9-inch by 12-inch book. And again, this palette can clip right onto the top, and I can paint anywhere. It's great too because I don't even need to have a table to set anything on. So this demonstration that I'm going to do today, this is called The Coach and Horses. It's a pub in London. And I took this picture when I was on a trip there a couple of years ago. So this tiny little cup, I decided, usually when I'm painting in my studio, of course, I have a big water cup, but I decided to just sort of paint in the way that I would paint if I were traveling, just so you could kind of get a feel for it, except I'm not clipping the palette to my paper. So the way that I paint with this small set, I don't mix too many colors in the lid because there isn't that much space to mix. And so what I do instead is I let most of the colors mix onto the paper, or mix on the paper. And actually, I like the look of that better because you get a lot of interesting textures when the colors mix with each other after they dry. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start with the greenery. So this is Hooker's Green, and I'm using the number 8 Voyage brush. And I'm going to start with just Hooker's Green, which by itself is it's a very straightforward green, but it's a bit garish for the eventual outcome that I want to get for this section of the painting. So I'll just rinse my brush, and I'll come back in now and I'll pick up some of this cadmium lemon, and I'll drop a little bit of that into the top. And I'll drop a little bit of this Azo Yellow Deep down into this section. And you can see all the colors are mixing around inside of this green. As long as it's still wet, that will happen. If you let it dry first, you can still get some nice color passages and mixtures. But if you can do it while it's still wet, you'll get the best results.
Kristen, someone's asking if these brushes are also good for gouache.
They are good for gouache, and I have used them for gouache extensively. So yes, they are. They're my go-to brushes for gouache, actually. So now I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow ochre in here, just to kind of keep things a little different. And I'm going to mix a little bit of, this is quinacridone blue violet, or excuse me, quinacridone purple bluish. I always stumble on that name. So I'm dropping a little bit of that color into the green as well.
Another question, Michelle Wasserman's asking, do you prefer to mix on the page rather than the palette?
Yes, I do. So for the reasons that you can just get a lot of interesting color within each color shape. If you drop colors one at a time, they just have a beautiful way of mixing with each other. And that's one of the things that's about watercolor and makes it scary and intimidating for some people, but also interesting and spontaneous and playful for other people who are willing to sort of give it that chance. And so that's what I love about it. Is it is a medium that will surprise you now and then and do things that you don't expect it to do. But if you can kind of go with that, you'll really have a lot of fun with it. So you have to be willing to kind of go with it a little bit. So now I'm just painting some of the insides of these windows. There's some light coming through in this pub because this picture was taken in the evening. And this is the side of the building. There's some lights kind of shining up on the sides of it. So I draw my drawings first in ink, or excuse me, in pencil, and then I go over them with permanent ink. Was there another question?
Yeah, a bunch of questions. Everyone's really interested, and a lot of compliments. People really like your work, of course. So Chris Cunningham's asking, do you ever wet the paper before painting to allow the colors to mix?
Never. Now I do experiment a lot. Even though I've been painting for a really long time, I still continue to experiment and take time out to experiment. But that's something that I don't like to do, just because my work is more representational, and so that approach doesn't really work so much for me. And I also like to leave little spaces of white, as you can see, for an example, in between some of the greenery. I've purposefully left little white spaces. I don't plan on coming back and filling those in, but I leave those on purpose because I just really like the way they look. So I'm adding some greenery here that I just looked at my picture and I had forgotten to draw it in, but I'm putting it in and I can always go back with ink later. So I use a really nice pen too. I use this TWSBI Diamond 580 pen. It's a refillable pen, and I definitely recommend a refillable pen. You can go through so many of those disposable Micron pens or Staedtler pens, whichever ones you use, and they're not very environmentally friendly. And the pens that have a nib, they just have a much nicer line, and your work will just look better as a result of using them. So I definitely recommend that. Yes?
Well, a couple folks have asked about what brush you're using. This is the Black Velvet Voyage series.
This is the number 6.
Okay, that's the size 6. Thank you. And someone asked if it's a problem to put the cap back on when the head is still wet. And the answer to that is no, it's not a problem because the cap has a hole in it.
Yes.
You can see it on the back there, although it's hard to see on the camera. And so because of that hole, it allows the air to get in so that the brush can dry. That's the important feature of the Voyage brush.
Right. And that was a really smart thing to put there, because you can put them away wet, and you wouldn't want to put them away dry, because you want to, before I put the cap on, I always smooth the bristles out like that and make sure I have a nice fine point before I put it away very carefully because I don't want to ding the bristles on the side and have them splay. So I want to take the brush out of the case and have it be perfectly pointed just like it is right now and just like it was when I put the cap on.
Nice.
Yeah, they really are great brushes. And having the mix of the natural, they're natural and synthetic hair, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, so someone asked about that. The Black Velvet is a blend of synthetic of a synthetic as well as a natural squirrel hair that gives you the bounce of the synthetic along with the absorbency and the release of the squirrel.
Yeah, so that's what I understand is it's the addition of the natural hair that's what keeps the water from flowing out too quickly. If it was all synthetic, the water would just, or the paint and water would just come pouring out. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, although, many of our synthetic brushes that are 100% synthetic are doing well, performing very well in terms of absorbency, but nothing performs like the natural hair. And so for those who are looking for that, the Black Velvet's an excellent option. But for example, the Silver Silk, which is 100% synthetic, that brush is great for watercolor and gouache as well, but it doesn't hold like the Black Velvet does.
So now I'm playing with color a little bit. I've done a first lay-in of color with burnt sienna. Now I'm dropping in some of that quinacridone purple bluish. Now I'll drop in a little bit of ultramarine.
I like this question. Ventura Brend is asking from Instagram, how does the stiffness of the bristles affect the outcome of a brush stroke?
They're the perfect, I don't know if you'd say the word combination, but they're not too stiff and they're not too stiff and they're not too soft. They're just right. And that goes for all the sizes. So I've experienced painting with watercolor brushes that are too stiff, and I've experienced painting with watercolor brushes that are too soft. So these are not too soft, and they're the Goldilocks of brushes. I don't know.
Just right.
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer. I guess it's an easy answer.
Brend is asking, what brush would you recommend for someone starting with watercolor?
I would recommend, if you're just going to get one brush, I would recommend a number 8 Black Velvet
Number
brush.
8, the round. Yeah.
A number 8 round, yes.
Yeah, that's the most popular one.
Oh, it is?
Sure.
Oh.
Yep. Number 8 round. Number 6 round also. But yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. And it depends on what size you're working, what size painting you're going to do. But yeah, that would be the one I'd go for. Most people beginning in watercolor work fairly small to start with.
So a few folks are asking about the Black Velvet and what media is it good for and what is it not good for. So just to review for everyone, because the squirrel hair is so fine, it's outstanding for watercolor, for gouache, for inks, for dyes, but you would not want to use it for acrylic or anything heavy body because the hair could tear. It's just not stiff enough for that. So for something stiffer, you'd want ruby satin, or you'd want Bristolon from Silver Brush. Let's see, a question. I missed the first part. Are the travel brushes the same as the Black Velvet rounds? Yes, that's a good question. So these are rounds. The Voyage, these travel brushes, are the round number 2, number 4, number 6, and number 8. But obviously they have the travel handle, which is obviously important for a lot of folks. So they are similar, and the size of the head is the same length out and the same width as the regular Black Velvet rounds. Good question. How about acrylic gouache? Good question, Andrea Silva. So acrylic gouache is also okay for Black Velvet. You just want to be careful that, depending on how thick you like it and how much you may or may not water it down. So
I'm continuing on through this painting, and painting it in a fairly playful way. I should show you the reference photo. So you can see the building is very dark, not a lot of color, but I like to add color wherever I want to see it.
Nice. I like seeing the original. Are they the same length as the normal short handle? Yes. I like that question. Does the travel brush come with different brush type or only for round brush? In the Black Velvet, the travel brush is only for the round. However, we have a new watercolor brush that we're launching this summer. So we'll show it to all of you here on social media as soon as it's in our hands in the next month or so. And in that new watercolor brush, that travel brush comes in many different shapes. So round, bright, I think, I don't remember if it had an angle or not, but we'll show it to you. What is this, end of May? So probably end of June or July. We'll show it to you all.
I'm very excited about those brushes.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to we have a bunch of new stuff to share with everybody this summer and fall. My mom's been working hard, creating a whole bunch of new stuff. What is a common mistake when choosing a brush for watercolor?
Is that question for me?
Well, it's for either one of us. You're the professional, so.
A common mistake would be getting brushes that are really too cheap. I kind of liken the brush to, if you were going to sign a check, you wouldn't want to use a crayon. And if you're painting, this is an extension of my hand. So I want something that's going to work with me and not something that's going to work against me that I have to constantly compensate for. And having a good brush is the answer to making painting easier.
Well, here's a good question. Does the handle, because this travel brush, of course, the handle comes off, you have to take the cap and put it on the back. Does that come loose? Does it impact the way you're working at all, Kristen?
It has never, ever come loose. They fit perfectly. They're really well-designed brushes. And as an instructor, I've had a lot of students come to me with a lot of different brushes of all different brands. And so when I help them with their work, oftentimes, or most of the time, they'll hand me their brush and I'll help them with their brush. So I've had a lot of experience painting with different brushes from that, and nothing compares to these. So they just are really great. And they have a nice feel in your hand. They're well balanced. This is the number 2. This is the smallest one that I'm using. And like I said, I use all of them in the set, and they last for a really long time. And I paint all the time, so.
Dora is asking, do you usually paint the background at the end of the process?
Yes, I usually paint in watercolor. I usually paint foreground to background, or I paint the center of interest first. Usually, everything I do is, there's no set way that I do everything every single time, but for that, I can say usually that's what I do.
You're an artist. You have a right to change your mind at any moment, Kristen.
Yeah, and usually I have a good reason behind the decisions that I make as far as what to paint first, and it usually relates to edge work. And I usually try to paint in the order that will get the best result and also make it the easiest for me to paint.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. Can the size 8, this is from Valerie Arts, can the size 8 be used for finer details as well?
Yes. And I'll show you. I'll just demonstrate that right now. So that was a number 6. This is a number 8. So you can see that it still has a really nice point. And I can hold it up to the number 6 just to compare. So the number 6 has a longer, finer point, but the number 8 also has a great point. So I'll just drop in some color. I'll drop in some phthalo green here with a point. And I'll go right down the center here. So it's holding a lot of water. not releasing too much paint, and I can get a nice line. So I'll use this brush too to make a line here. I can also tap it on my paper towel and pick up some more paint and make an even finer line. Do you see how that's different looking?
Yes. Lots of good questions. A lot of questions about for beginners. So folks
Okay.
are concerned, is this the right brush for me if I'm a beginner? Would you recommend it?
I definitely would recommend. I recommend this brush to all my students, whether they're beginners or advanced painters. And a lot of times, if they've been painting for a while and they haven't tried this brush, and they end up trying it, they wish they had discovered it a long time ago. It really is a great brush.
And so Marianne's asking, I missed the beginning. What's the name of the brush again? So this is the Black Velvet. We're our company's Silver Brush Limited, and this particular brush line we have 34 different brush lines. This is the Black Velvet series, and Kristen is using specifically the travel brushes, the Black Velvet Voyage. A lot of questions about the cap. Again, there's a hole in the cap, so it's okay if the brush is a little moist when you put the cap back on it. But as Kristen pointed out earlier, you do want to, clean your brush first and, shake out most of the water. Let's see, a question about sizes. So are there specific sizes, Kristen, that you recommend for your students?
So the one I usually recommend first is the number 8. And if they can get the set, I always recommend getting the set of 4, which is the 2, the 6, the 4, and the 8.
Is there any artist or style, Kristen, that has particularly influenced your work with watercolors?
Not lately. I've been actually going out of my way to not look at other art and just do my own thing. And I've been trying to develop a new look and new style of painting. And so that's been my focus lately. There's a lot of wonderful work out there though. But no, I've been just trying to do my my own thing.
That's an honest answer. I like it. Sunil asking, can you buy a single brush or does it have to be in the set? No, they're available both as the single brush or a set. If you're in the United States or if you're ordering from websites from the United States, these are available online. Jerry's Artorama sells these Black Velvet Voyage brushes. Dick Blick sells these Voyage brushes. Cheap Joe's sells them. Amazon sells them. The Brush Guys sells them. So a lot of options for these Black Velvet brushes. And in other countries, it just depends. I know I've seen some folks from India here. That's going to be changing. We'll have a new distributor in India coming up this summer. So you'll have a lot more options to buy in India. Although I still think they're an art shark in India at the moment. Mexico, you'd probably want to buy from the US. So Amazon US or any of the others, Jerry's Artorama or Blick, they ship, I believe, to Mexico.
I was going to say too, I do a lot of urban sketching. And in fact, I started the Urban Sketchers group here in Palm Springs. And a lot of people love to use these brushes for urban sketching too.
So, all right, now everyone's throwing countries at me. Let's see if I can remember them all. So Canada, absolutely. Amazon Canada is probably your best bet. I know they're available there and they're online across the nation. Depends what province you're in. If you're in Alberta, there's quite a few physical stores that carry it. In Calgary. Argentina, your best bet is buying them from Arte Miranda, which is based in Spain, but I know they ship to South America. Let's see, who else? Valeri Art says it's midnight where they are. Well, there you go, Kristen. You have an audience that's so dedicated to you.
Where is it midnight?
Wherever Valari Arts is.
Oh, I don't know that one.
3:30 Eastern. So what is that? 8.5 hours. Could be India.
Well, that's very
Have you
neat.
had the hair? Here's a good question. Have you had the hairs bend backward when you put the cap on?
No, but I'm very careful. So you definitely want to make sure, I'll demonstrate it again. I use my fingers and I smooth the hairs out like that. And I turn it around and I look at it and I make sure that no hairs are sticking out. And then I very carefully put the brush back in the holder. Another thing I do is if I'm on the go and my water's gotten a little bit dirty and I don't have really good clean water to rinse my brush out with, I'll put it back in the cap. But then when I get back to my hotel room, I always take the brushes out and I rinse them in warm water. And I learned that from Dee. You always have to rinse your brushes well and take good care of them.
Yeah, I mean, we have folks who show us their Black Velvet brushes that they bought in the 1990s, and they're still using them to this
Wow.
day. So they really do last. Take good care of them. But, they're well made, and like my mom always says, the most expensive brush you'll ever buy is $1.99. You're just going to be replacing it over and over.
Yeah, and if you're going to spend time learning to paint or working on a painting and putting a lot of time into it, why wouldn't you use a good brush? It'll also save you time if you have a good brush because you'll be able to paint faster.
Well, there you go. Does the hot water ruin the brushes? No, but don't leave it in hot water for very long. So if you're going to put the brushes into, say, some boiling water to reshape them, you just want to dip it into the boiling water. Don't let them sit there for very long.
That one I didn't know, but I don't usually.
So in fact, here's another question to that point. So Archana Roth is asking, sometimes one hair from the brush comes out and then that destroys the point. How do I handle that? So what you would do if one or two hairs are out of shape, again, you can just dip the head of the brush into boiling water and it will reshape the brush for you. Don't dip it in too long and not too deep in. You don't want the ferrule to get loosened or anything. But if you just dip the head into boiling water for a second or two, you can get back to the original shape.
I've never had that happen.
There you go. And yes, it might take, Archana, more than one dip, depending on just what's going on with your brush. If you have hardened, caked paint in it that's 6 months old, you might have to dip it in quite a few times and just sort of work it out. We have videos on that. I'll type it into the chat on silverbrushcare.com. There's videos that'll show you exactly how to do that. There we go. Great. Look at that. Started with a sketch, and now look at you, Kristen. Beautiful.
I'm done.
There you go. Absolutely fantastic.
Almost done.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you for having me.
No, this is great. This has been really enjoyable. I love seeing how this stuff comes together. You're so talented, and I just marvel at how you managed to do that in such a short period of time.
If you have that picture, you can show them the one I painted with the number 18 and 20 really large rounds.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it. So you had two really large.
I had two pictures. One is of me holding it because it's just to show the scale.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get this to work. How about that one? Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's the big one. So that's 51 inches by 51 inches.
Wow. How long did that take you?
A couple of months. Took a long time.
Let's see. There you go. All right, so that's one. And then let me find the other one. I don't know if this is the one you wanted. Let me see. Oh, here it comes. That's number 2.
It was in the same email. It's a picture of me holding it.
Yep, I've got it. I just have to share the screen. Here we go, screen share. There you are. All right. So is that also 51 by 51?
Sorry. Oh boy. Sorry about that.
That's how we know you're really in your studio.
Yeah, that's the same painting. That's what it looks like. It's 51 by 51.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. All right, well, let's get back to you. I don't know why my head showed up here. There you go. Very nice. Let's see, what other questions do we have for you? Have you experimented with mixed media techniques in your watercolor paintings?
No, not, I mean, once in a while, I'll use a little bit of gouache with my watercolor, or I'll just use gouache or watercolor, but no pastels. And I do use ink, but I don't think that's really considered mixed media, so no.
Okay. Good questions. Do the brushes work well with watercolor pencil? Paul is asking.
Whoops. Sorry about that. Just a minute.
Sure.
So they do work just fine with watercolor pencils. I'm not a fan of watercolor pencils because they just don't, they never, even if they're the best ones, they just don't really have enough color. So everything looks very washed out. I would say that if you were going to use watercolor pencils, the best use for watercolor pencils is to use them to add a little detail after your watercolors are dry. So I'll even show you. I have in this book, I was experimenting with some watercolor pencils, and you see this painting of a toucan. It's pretty bad, but I started with the watercolor pencils and I kept putting color, and then I went over it with a brush dipped in water, and it's just washed out looking. It just looks terrible as compared to something like this where you have actual paint and the paint is making the color. It's just I like the directness of paint onto the paper, and just having the paint do what I want it to do versus this where you're just sort of sneaking up on all these colors and then trying to get them to blend together later with just water. To me, it's not a good way. It's not a way that works for me. But I know some people like them.
Well, this is just beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
A lot of color with just 12 colors, right?
Yeah, amazing. Just amazing. Absolutely great.
And this is another palette I use, this travel palette where I have 37 colors. And I have experimented and I use a really wide range of colors, but for something like this, these 12 colors are perfect.
Really nice. Great. Well, thanks so much, Kristen. I appreciate you doing that. Let me see if I can get Dee back in here. There she is. Hey, Mom.
Kristen, I really enjoyed watching you make magic with those brushes. I really enjoyed it. You know, it really is a pleasure. You know, the watercolors are so popular these days, along with gouache, along with a lot of others. You know, for years we always worked with silk painters who loved black velvet because it held so much color, and then calligraphers loved them because it holds so much color. And here you're showing everybody how to work with that. I'm just curious, was that a 140-pound cold press, hot press?
This is a 140-pound cold press.
Cold press. Yeah, it really absorbed the paint off the brushes very, very nicely.
It does. So this is Canson Montval paper. I also like to use Arches.
Right.
This is Arches. Arches doesn't quite have the flow. It holds the paint a little, or sucks up the paint a little more quickly.
Yeah. But that's the advantage of having the black velvet brushes. because
Right.
because they absorb so much color, you can get it right on the paper. And I've
Yeah.
always found the 140 to be very, very more than enough for me for it to be absorbent. I love that work, and thank you very much for coming today. You're really wonderful. We really
Well,
appreciate
it's been
your
great.
time.
It's been great being here, and I have to thank you for designing these amazing brushes, and it's been really interesting
That's my life. I'm on the
to
phone.
follow along and learn about the design of these brushes. And I never knew how much went into designing a
Yeah,
paintbrush.
a lot goes in.
I thought it was just picking the right hair,
No,
but no.
no, the new line that I'm just coming out with, it's taken me a long time, more than a year, to actually get it all designed and bring it to market. So we've got a lot of things going on at Silver Brush, a lot of new stuff coming out, revamping some stuff, some brushes that have been out there a while. So we're going to be doing this year is a lot of transition, a lot of changes. And yeah, we're looking forward to it very, very much. And thank you for being part of that. We really do. You
Thank
know,
you.
folks that are watching, anybody wants to send me a short video about how much you love the brushes, we're always interested in getting those videos and seeing what you can say. No more than about 30 seconds to 45 seconds. But if you have anything you'd like to say that's nice, please send it to me, to my attention.
And I really only have nice things to say about these brushes. They're really amazing. I couldn't do the work that I do without them.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's really important to know. All right, I'm done, Warren. Thank you.
Warren, if you want to share my website, it's KristenOlsonStone.com.
Let's see. May have taken a slight pause. Well, so you have two different palettes. There it is. KristenOlsonStone.com. Nice. So you can go right into your website and take a look. Now, do you get students from all over the world in your classes?
I do my online classes. Yeah.
Your
And I
online
have taught workshops in Europe, but I do have students from all over the world, which is really nice. Australia and Canada and
Amazing.
Spain. Yeah.
The great thing about being online, it really is wonderful. I still marvel at it. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to say bye-bye.
So
Thanks,
let's give away some brushes, because I
Warren.
know everyone wants that. And I did want to let everyone know that is a cell phone that you have there, Mom. That's not an old rotary phone, right? Just making sure with what was ringing over there.
No, I
One
used
of the-
an old rotary phone because I once had, I'll tell you a funny story. I once had music on it, and all I did was start to dance when it rang. I forgot that it was a phone. So instead of doing that, I just put the phone on it. Let's give away some brushes. Okay.
All right. So this set, again, retails for $195. You can get it Jerry's Artorama, Blick.com, Chief Joe's, Amazon.com, The Brush Guys, many other retailers in stores. MC Art Supply in Waco, Texas, I know has it, and their website. So this is a very popular set. You can get it pretty much around the world. In Europe, it's on Amazon as well as in Canada. We're going to give away two of them, though. So congratulations to these two winners from Hungary, Dora Corini Paintings. Congratulations to you. And in Mexico, Ventura Brand. So congratulations to the two of you. Send us a DM through the social media channels, and we'll get your address and ship them off to you. Kristen Olson Stone, thank you so much. This was absolutely wonderful. You are magnificent, extremely talented, and we appreciate you very much. And everyone, thank you. We'll see you again in 2 weeks at this exact same time with another wonderful demonstration. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.